This is Meltdown Live, presented by MyBookie.ag. Use code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag for double your initial deposit. You sign on to make a deposit, they double it with code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag.
Here we are with a fun Friday edition of The Meltdown. I'm Tim Melton, so happy to have you here with us as we broadcast live from the Culver studio yet again. Once again, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, every single weekday, and we have a special show planned for you today. Let's introduce our cast of characters on this fun Friday edition of The Meltdown as we have E.G. here with us. E.G.,
Hi, Tim.
how's your week treated you?
It's been good.
Yeah.
I'm headed to Augusta after the show to see my college roommate and best friend. So I'm very excited.
Gosh, well, that is awesome. Thank you for making time for us here.
Of
We've
course.
got to get a life update from you that we've teased, and
Yes.
we'll see what information we can actually get from you here on the air in just a couple of moments. We also have the one and only Tyler Lionel Johns, and Tyler, shock of the century. You went to go see Until Dawn last night, a movie that we have both dreaded the trailers, watching those play every single time in the theater, and then them reverse and play again. And you actually like the movie?
I am almost as shocked as you are. I'm a big fan of the Until Dawn game, and that's why I went especially hard on the Until Dawn trailer because it just has nothing to do with the game. And it also follows that happy death day, live, die, repeat sort of style, and I'm just not a fan of that.
I'm not either.
So I was dreading it going in, but there are so many callbacks and Easter eggs to the game, and it's done in a way that feels very respectful and almost reverent of the source material
Wow.
to where I found myself rooting for the movie halfway through. A lot of cool visuals. Still wish it wasn't in that live, die, repeat style, but is what it is. Um, I enjoyed it more than I thought it was. More than I thought. I gave it 2.5 to 3 stars, and that's about 2 stars more than I thought.
I nearly went to the theater last night to watch the CinemaCon review, the presentation that they put together.
Interesting.
Oh, I should have warned you about that because I saw a bunch of posts where it was just like people were mad because there was no new footage that you actually wanted to see.
Okay. Well, thankfully I didn't go see it then. I
Yeah.
went home and saw the back of my eyelids and slept for like 12 hours, and that was awesome. I've been running full speed this week and am happy to have caught up on some rest there. But no, I didn't go see that. I thought I'd be able to see maybe something from Running Man, something from
Nope.
Weapons,
Nope.
something, none of that stuff.
None of that.
Just,
You got an extended look at How to Train Your Dragon.
no thanks.
Yeah.
The Superman footage we've already seen,
Right?
and maybe Lilo and Stitch or Mission Impossible.
Man, I would have been so disappointed.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that did not occur. Hey, here's one thing I'm not disappointed about. We have a special guest here in the Culver studio with us. Jason Collier is here. And Jason, we saw each other ahead of the screening for The Monkey here in town. And you made such an impression on me that I said, you know what? I need to add Jason and we need to get on Messenger and we need to talk. And we've been talking, we've been sharing some stuff about mystery boxes back and forth. And you've made a lovely donation here to our show, which is a mystery box that we will open next week on the show. And I'm very excited about that.
And it's a heavy one too, so I don't know if that's good or bad anymore, right?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. It used to be foolproof. We get the heavy ones and it's just full of goodies. And now,
Last time we just got Hyacinth Bucket.
Yeah.
Whatever that.
Okay. Big
Oh
face
yeah.
on
She insists it's pronounced bouquet according to the back of the box.
yeah, we have a lot to get to here with Jason. I have a lot of questions that I need answered about his life and how he spends his time. But we're going to start with this flavor profile. I like to do this with new guests and figure out sort of what they like the most. If you were to pick 4 films or 4 film franchises or what you would consider to be sort of your letterboxed 4, where are you right now in your life with the movies that have had the biggest impact on you?
Well, when it comes to are they my favorite movies or are they good movies?
Mm.
That's a difference.
That is.
So, but I made a list because I did go back to see because things changed, and so
Yeah.
I went and I looked at what I had on Letterboxd, and I had my 4 movies of Letterboxd being Return of the Jedi, Superman, 1978,
Great choice.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4,
Okay.
and Avengers: Infinity War.
Oh, Okay. So very interesting here. I do think um, the argument of Infinity War being better than Endgame is valid. I think it's a
Absolutely.
valid argument. It's a better film.
Absolutely.
And I kind of want to start with that one. Like Infinity War, obviously the most recent of the films on your list to appear there in your top four.
Right.
Why did it make such a breakthrough for you? Because it was a moment for sure.
I like movies that end the way you don't expect them to.
Mm.
So I like to be surprised, even though I think I went into it, I already had heard what had happened. But also, I love the fact of how they were able to mix in so many of the characters, and all of them had like really good story elements to them. And it's just a movie that I'll go back and watch. If you're saying time to watch a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, I'm like, I'm gonna pick up Infinity War. It's just it starts and it doesn't stop. I mean, it just there's no lulls in that movie. Maybe the Thor stuff when he's trying to reunite
Right.
the sun, but
Main character of that movie. Who do you think it is?
um
This is a good nerd debate that I've had with multiple people, but I think the answer is clear.
um Thanos.
Yeah, that's correct. It is Thanos' movie.
It is.
100% Thanos'
Right,
movie.
and he wins at the end,
And he
so
definitely wins at the end. And then Endgame has a surprisingly less amount of Thanos really involved in it. I mean,
right. And I think the reason why I like Infinity War versus Endgame is because I still have this confusion about time travel, and I'm a big Back to the Future fan, so when they said that, Back to the Future was BS, I was just like, "Really?" So it took me a long time after watching the movie to actually get through the fact of like, "How does this time thing work again?" So I think I was overanalyzing it.
sure.
So it kinda made my head hurt, so that's why I go back to Infinity War.
Good stuff. Okay. I have to notice here that you have Return of the Jedi on your
Mhm.
list.
Yes.
Now, Tyler's a Return of the Jedi stan. I am Empire Strikes Back.
Well,
And I understand that you probably love both in different ways.
sure.
But why does Return of the Jedi get the nod from superfan Jason?
Well, Empire Strikes Back is a better movie fundamentally, but I enjoy Return of the Jedi more. It's more fun. Empire's not that fun.
I disagree. Empire's a blast. Literally. It's a lot of fun. So you're a defender of the Ewoks.
I don't mind them. I don't mind them at all.
I mean, that used to be one of the big tipping points in Star Wars fan culture
Sure.
was the Ewoks. And we've moved past the Ewoks so much that there's about 10 other things on the list right now before you ever get back to the Ewoks. But I want to talk about your Star Wars fandom because there's people in the chat right now, including Nick saying, so ready to take my son to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. You have Charles saying, I'm buying tickets for Sunday as we speak. The prequels used to be a punchline. And now it is very much like the Thanos meme of like, perhaps I judged you too harshly. And there's a lot of people coming around. Now, there's a lot of people that have loved them from the get. What's been your relationship with the prequels before we get into why episode 3 may be a little bit more special for you than the other two?
Well, been a fan of Star Wars since I was a little kid. First movie I ever saw at Green Springs Six Cinemas in '78. And so, obviously, when the prequels came along, it had been 16 years between Star Wars films, and everybody was just ready for Star Wars. But I don't they were ready for the Star Wars that was in their mind. They had had 16 years to build up what these movies were going to be, and when they weren't exactly what they thought they were going to be, when they were George Lucas's vision, not your head canon vision,
Mhm.
then a lot of people had some issues, and so um, I went. I think for Phantom Menace, I went like 7 times in the first day to see it,
Gosh. Did
and
you camp out?
I camped out for tickets,
Right.
and then I was literally at the movie theater. I went to the midnight show, and then I went to the like 10:30 to 4:45, 7:45, and then I literally could not make the last show. But I'm sure I saw that movie theater at least a dozen times. But I realized that when I left the movie theater, I ran into some friends that I'd been in line with to get in the tickets and like, "Hey, what'd you think?" And we are like, "Yeah, it's pretty good. What'd you think?" We were trying to get that validation that it was a really good movie when we kind of knew in our hearts that it wasn't.
Right.
And so I think the same thing happened with me at episode 2, which I liked actually less than Phantom Menace.
Same.
But yet I was still a fan of Star Wars, and so, I gave it I was a very much an apologist, but, deep down inside, I knew that these aren't not great movies. I read the books, and I'm like, "Why can't they be more like the books?" The actual novelizations of the movie. But George Lucas has this quick style, and, just like he said in one of the documentaries for Phantom Menace, he's like, "I did this a little bit more, like, intensely than I've ever done anything before in my life," and, uh, it just didn't resonate with people, and it resonated with me because I was a super fan, but like I said, I was an apologist too. And then Revenge of the Sith, I think, really helped. I think it's the best of all the 3 prequels.
I feel like that's a pretty unanimous opinion to have about the prequels, that episode 3 really stands above the rest. And when everyone had sold their stock after episode 2, episode 3 came in and delivered some of the best Star Wars stuff we've ever seen on screen.
Well, I think it was the fact that they were able to make it a little bit more adult. Whereas if you look at episode 1, it was for the kids and Jar Jar Fart and all that stuff. But
Episode 3 was the first PG-13 Star Wars
you're
movie.
correct.
Yeah.
That's right. And I remember I was actually I did an interview with the local TV station because I got to see the movie a little bit before everybody else, and that was a big thing at the time. Was like, this is not your dad's Star Wars. This is PG-13 Star Wars. So there's some elements that may be a little bit too much for just the normal 10-year-old kid.
And you get that right off that first kill within the movie. You kind of realize like you're living in a little bit of a different sort of MPAA world. Let's talk about your experience with episode 3, because I have to think that that was a pretty huge moment in your life. Um, there was this show. I don't know. Is Access Hollywood still around?
I think it is.
I don't
I
know.
think it may be on at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something. But I believe, after the Billy Bush incident, I think it lost a little cred.
Yeah, Billy Bush playing into the 2016 presidential election was not something a lot of people had on their bingo card for that year. But um, you appeared on Access Hollywood a number of times. We've watched all the footage, and I've gotten Tyler to watch all the footage, and we have a lot of questions. But there was a fan contest. They
Right.
were trying to find the Star Wars superfan that they would send to the episode 3 premiere who watched the film alongside George Lucas. Now, did you know that that was on the line as well in this? And how did you learn about this contest?
Watched Access Hollywood, and I remember saying, "Wow, I would love to go see the premiere of Revenge of the Sith." And they wanted you to make a 1 or 2 minute video of why are you the ultimate Star Wars fan. So I do video work for a living, so I got a buddy of mine that worked with me and said, "Hey, Sunday afternoon, let's come over to the house. I've got a big Star Wars collection, and then maybe we'll also go over to the studio that I work that I've got all my collectibles at too, kind of like you guys have all your collectibles around here, and let's throw together something, and send it off." Not thinking that,
Very good. It's like did you guys know it was good? Like when you put it together, like it's very good. It still holds up.
and I just thought it'd be fun. We were just having a good time. So I wanted to, showcase my collection and showcase my stormtrooper costume that I used to wear, and just have fun with it, and not thinking that it would ever go anywhere.
You showcase more than that. That leads to Tyler. Young Tyler here has a question
So-
for you.
Yes.
When we were watching the coverage, there was one shot of your video that they kept going back to over and over
The
again.
shower scene.
Well,
No,
that
no.
one, which was hilarious, you walking out of the shower with a towel around the stormtrooper costume. But I was thinking of the scene. You've got all of the women around you. It's like, if I'm a geek, this isn't too bad.
Yeah, that was the money shot, and I think that's what put me over the top, frankly, because there's always been, yeah. Now I think, geek is chic now. It's because of Star Wars and Marvel, and obviously, there's a show like this. It's just, it's mainstream now, and it wasn't mainstream. So I was like, how am I going to like catch people's eyes? They'll see me with all the collectibles, they'll see me with the costume, but like other people do that, and so I was like, well, beautiful women. So I actually went down. They were my wife at the time. They were she was I advisor for sorority at UAB. So those are all UAB sorority girls that helped me with
Go
the contest.
Blazers.
There you go Blazers.
Yeah, no, that worked out for you.
They used that shot about 12 or 15 times in the footage I saw. So I do think it put you over the top. But quick chat check-in. Sorry for the interruption. Nick in the chat says he thinks he knows you. He did some tech work out of college for Diamond Studios, and he says he thinks you had the office full of Star Wars stuff.
Correct, Nick.
Small world.
I don't remember you, Nick, but you know.
You live in his heart forever. Okay, let's get to the big story here. You got a chance to meet the man himself, George Lucas there. Now,
Meet the Maker is
how did you sleep the night before? As big of a Star Wars fan as you are, knowing that this is going to be something that you're going to be kind of checking off your bucket list.
it was pretty crazy. I found out on a Monday that I won the contest in the dentist chair of all places. And then
Can you just give me 5 seconds here? Because I think
segue.
Perfect.
got to talk about my favorite dentist here real quick. There's not many opportunities
Yeah.
to perfectly talk about that. And even though Jason is a diehard Meltdonian here, I don't think he was intentionally setting this
Yeah.
up.
No,
But
no.
he has unlocked my passion for Alabama Dental Associates. I recommend you call Alabama Dental and get an appointment for yourself. They're my dentist. They can be your dentist too. There's no guarantee that if you go to Alabama Dental that they're going to lead you eventually to George Lucas. That's not what we're promoting here, but we are promoting that you will have better gum health. You'll have better dental health there by teaming up with Dr. Jeff, Dr. Brian, and Dr. Nolan over on Grants Mill Road, providing you all sorts of services when it comes to staying on top of your dental health. Maybe you have some major work that needs to be done. Maybe you just want to get on top of those routine cleanings. They can help you over at Alabama Dental Associates located on Grants Mill Road. Go ahead and call them to make an appointment now, 205 956 8977, or visit alabamadental.com, where they look forward to seeing you. Okay, so you're in the dentist chair.
I'm in the dentist chair. I get the call. I'm like, take all the gauze out. I've got to be able to talk. And sure enough, they had to do some legal things. And then all of a sudden it's like, yes, you're going. And at that time it was supposed to be, you're going to the LA premiere. That was what the prize was. But then, so it was just a prize to go see the premiere of Revenge of the Sith in LA. Well, when I was on the phone and they said I won, it says, well, there's going to be a little bit change of plans. And I thought, here it comes. I'm going to get like a parting gift or something, right? Because no, we're going to fly you to San Francisco to the charity premiere that George Lucas is going to be at. So I was like, heck yes. I was like floored because the whole meeting George Lucas wasn't really part of the whole
Okay,
contest.
I was wondering that
Yeah.
of like,
It was just go to see the premiere. They had actually about a dozen charity premieres around the country for that movie. And so I'm surprised they didn't fly me to like, Miami or something that was
Right.
closer, but there was a whole deal of going to see, get to meet Lucas. And that was just the icing on the cake. It was obviously my, it's kind of a dream of mine to visit the guy who had, given me all these years of entertainment. And also I chose my career because watching Star Wars movies growing up. I mean,
wow, that's awesome. Do we have the photo, Tyler? Have we already shared it?
I've got it up right now.
Okay, great. This is the photo of Jason hanging out with George Lucas. And is it hard to believe it was 20 years ago that this occurred?
yeah, it was. When I realized that Revenge of the Sith was celebrating their 20th anniversary, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe it's been 20 years. So lots happened. I've had a family since then and stuff. And it's lots happened. A lot of Star Wars has happened since then too. But yeah, it's hard to believe. When I went there, so I go to San Francisco. I fly in on a Wednesday afternoon. The premiere is on Thursday, and then I fly back to Birmingham on Friday. And so I was literally, by the time I got back home, they did give me a car service. That was pretty cool.
Awesome.
By the time I drove home, I literally walked in the door to see me on TV from the night before.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
Couldn't have timed that any better.
I couldn't have, no. Yeah, I did. It was a little bit nerve wracking meeting George, because I was going to be on the red carpet. It was San Francisco, so there weren't a ton of celebrities. Actually, Jake Lloyd, who was Anakin from Episode 1, was there, and Lucas's son Jet, who was actually in Revenge of the Sith, was there too. I think Christy Yamaguchi was there. I'm trying to remember some like B-list celebrities that were in San Francisco that got the invite. The mayor, I'm not sure who the mayor of of San Francisco was at the time. It wasn't Gavin at that time, was it? Gavin Newsom? I
I don't think it was.
No, yeah, it was some mayor guy was there. Anyway, and so I got Tony.
Gavin Newsom was the mayor.
Oh, it was.
Okay, so I met Gavin Newsom, which
How can you forget a hairstyle like that?
that's what I was saying. So I get to it was the picture is from the red carpet, and the producers from Access Hollywood were there. We shot a couple of little segments with that they used for different parts of the show, and then it was like, well, supposedly they had shown George my video when they had their junket at Skywalker Ranch the day before, and Hayden Christensen had seen it too. There's footage of that in my video. And then I got to meet him. And of course, there was a big deal at the time that people were skipping work to go see Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And so so he says, well, he's skipping work to be here. And George kind of puts his hand in front of us. So he's not here. And then I jokingly, you can't hear it on the mic saying, yeah, use the Force, George. And, like mind trick kind of
Good
thing.
stuff.
And so there's a lot of stuff that wasn't filmed, that wasn't shown. And but it was he signed some things for me. I actually had a Star Wars. I was into Star Wars customizing action figures, and I'd created a custom George action figure. And I think I'd give him. Well, I think he wouldn't sign it because it wasn't a licensed item.
That sounds very George.
It sounds very George. I'd also given him at that time he had a little pooch, and maybe he didn't like that too. I don't know, but he did sign. But I was prepared. I did bring some 8x10s and stuff, and got to meet him, and I thanked him. It's not on the footage, but for inspiring my career, and we just we had a moment. I will and he's a short fellow, which is interesting. And then I got to meet his son. I got him to sign my thing too, one of the autographs, but then it smudged. And but anyway, and then they hauled George onto and then it was done, and then I was like, I can breathe. And then I realized I was about to see what at that time was supposed to be the last Star Wars movie.
Right.
And then I got totally excited again because I'm about to see Star Wars. And then realizing when we get in the movie theater, I'm like literally in the back row, and George is up there, and like in the prime seats. So I watched Revenge of the Sith in the same room as George Lucas.
That's awesome. Will you be watching the re-release of Revenge of the Sith in theaters this weekend?
I'm planning to go tonight.
Okay.
I would have gone last night if I didn't have kids and homework and all that stuff.
What is the percentage chance George Lucas is in your screening tonight?
Negative.
Okay. I was going to say, but still, I mean, that's got to bring back all those memories immediately, and being able to see it back on the big screen. That's pretty.
It does.
Awesome.
I'm excited about seeing it. Like I said, it's my favorite prequel, and I love how the way it gets dark toward the end, and I think now I appreciate it more after seeing like the sequels and all the other some of the maybe not as good Star Wars stuff that's been produced recently, that I think I'll appreciate it even more. And it's nostalgia too,
Where are you on Andor and series like that? I mean, the Disney Plus series, or have you gotten deep into any of those?
I've loved The Mandalorian. I thought it was great. Book of Boba Fett was so-so. Andor was like way too long and kind of boring. I'm excited about seeing what happens next, but I can't remember what happened. It's been over a year now.
Yeah.
And then the other shows have been.
We don't talk about the Acolyte in these parts.
Yeah.
That's not something we do because it still scarred us. Still scars us to this day. Well, that's awesome. You are a collector, obviously, of Star Wars items, which is what kind of got you on the radar here with your video and your legit fandom. Is there one Star Wars item in your collection that you value more than any other? Is there one that comes to the top of your mind as the thing you would save in a fire?
There's two. One's kind of funny, and one is for pure financial value. Is I have the blue Snaggletooth, which is one of the harder figures to find. It was a Sears exclusive, and it was only available back in 78 or 9. And it runs about, I don't know, $300-$400. It's one action figure. So that's, I probably, if I could snag one thing, I'd probably grab him. But I do have a friend of mine who worked in the advertising business. And when episode 3 was coming along, he worked for the company who did the M&Ms, I don't know if you remember, there was a whole campaign with Star Wars and M&Ms called Empire. And my buddy Brian worked on that, and he happened to be on a shoot in like Buenos Aires or something where they were shooting this stuff. And Chewbacca was there. Peter Mayhew was playing Chewbacca, and my friend Brian walked by where they were doing Chewbacca's hair, and there was a brush, and he asked the makeup lady, says, "Is that Chewbacca's hair in the brush?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so he grabs a wad of the hair out of the brush, and he sent me one strand of Chewbacca's hair, and I have it in glass.
Wow.
So that's my fun item that I would take in a fire.
That's awesome. Something that a Star Wars fan immediately knows the significance of, while other people go like, "Are you okay? Or do you have a problem?"
And I always show people the hair, and I was like, "Let me show you this," because it's written Chewbacca hair on one side, and then you turn it over, and it's just taped, and so it's hilarious, but it's part of I think lots of Star Wars fans would just give anything just to have a little bit of the movie where it's like just a piece of wood that was part of the set or something, and so the fact that I have a hair of Chewbacca's means a lot to me.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Speaking of hair, I've got to get an update on EG's life story here. We'll give Jason a chance to catch his breath because we've just been peppering him with questions here. But for those that don't know, EG has had a saga going on in her own
Yes.
personal
You
life.
could say that.
I don't know what I can legally say and what
no,
I
no,
can't, so I'm
no.
going to let
I'm
you
gonna
take
stop you
it.
there. Yeah. So I had a hair tool. I'll leave it at that because this is an open investigation stolen from me. And this was something that was going to be used by contract to create content with. And basically, I have been spending a lot of time, you could say, wanting to get to the bottom of this.
And energy and effort and
Energy, resource, well, actually no resources, just myself. And I solved it. I solved the case. So
it's like Charles Bronson's death wish. That's what this is.
I will agree with you. I don't know what that means.
Okay, I promise someone understands that reference.
Someone understands it. So all this to say, there is a airtight case. I am pressing charges and, you know, making sure this person's held accountable to the full extent of the law. And I'm very excited about that.
I've always said there's a couple of things in life that I believe to be true, and I've always said that one of them is you do not cross EG because you will face a wrath. So,
Yeah.
rooting for you, EG.
Thank you.
Thank you for that update. I know it's been a
Yeah.
little bit of a relief
It
to
has
have
been.
some success.
Yes, success is definitely the word I would use. And as I am at liberty to disclose more information, I will share with Meltdonia.
Thank you
Because there
so
might be
much.
celebrations that have to ensue or a court date you guys might need to attend to support me.
It will be like the Ewoks celebrating the fall of the Empire. It will feel that way. Return of the Jedi there.
Okay.
Okay. Tyler, you also have a little bit of a living situation update with us. As the last we heard in Raccoon City, things have not been pleasant.
Yeah, how should I put this? Some of the raccoons that live in Raccoon City have rabies.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
no. I did not. Wow.
Yeah.
Really
Uh,
clutching my pearls.
so my dad was over the other night, and I was chilling on my couch in the living room. He walks outside. About 5 seconds pass. He dashes back inside, closes the door. He goes, "You weren't kidding." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "A raccoon just ran at me. I heard him like making these strange noises from across the way, and then he sprinted up at the stairs at me."
See, in popular culture, raccoons are kind of looked at as being, a
These
little
cute
fluffy, cute little. They're got
bandits.
the little bandits. They
Yeah.
might get into a little bit of mischief in your garbage, but they're not going to cause you a lot of problems.
No, they're evil. They are evil.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, talk to me, Tyler.
So when raccoons are this unafraid of humans, and that just open to running up to somebody, you can typically assume they have symptomatic rabies. Now, even if they're not acting like that, you still want to stay away from a raccoon because they are the most common asymptomatic vectors of rabies.
Nice.
So they don't have to be foaming at the mouth and all that to pass the virus on to you because they're primarily feasting on dead things, which is how they get it.
Jeez.
So this one making a bunch of noise runs at my dad. My dad makes a mad dash back in, and he's just like, I don't, like, you weren't kidding. These things are evil. It's like, yes.
And he hasn't left since. He's still hanging there behind the door.
I mean, I see him doing double takes
Yeah.
when he goes outside now, and that's just what living in Raccoon City will do to you. This rabid raccoon went straight through my mint oil barrier, so I don't know if I've got to upgrade my defenses or if it's just the rabies taking over its brain, where it does not care if its nose is being burned.
Mm.
Please stay safe.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah. But animal control can't get on this, or
So
like,
see, here's the thing, Tim.
okay,
Every time I hear one in my vents or somewhere where my leasing office should and you know is could
Yeah.
and is supposed to take care of it, they just closed the work order and
Ooh, that's
and
awful.
without calling, without visiting, no nothing. If you call them up on the phone, they go, "Okay, I'll put in a work order for you." And then you'll get a notification that the work order's been closed or nothing at all, meaning I'm pretty sure they're not putting it in.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's been a bit of a fight.
What about a pellet gun?
I've thought about that. The problem
then I
is
just started blasting.
yeah. So anyways, I just started blasting. No, I've been toying around with some different ideas, some pepper related ideas,
Yeah.
because if they're getting into trash and garbage, I'm thinking maybe if I just throw some ghost chili extract in there,
That might do
then
it.
might light them up and they'll stay away. But I don't know what to do at this
It's
point.
like Gremlins. This is more Gremlins
It
than it is.
really is.
Yeah, this is bad. Okay, well, I'm glad that I'm a homeowner, and you guys remind me
know.
of that all the time.
I
And
know.
thank you so much. But
Yeah, it's not. It must be nice to like say this is my place. I'm responsible for it,
yeah,
and there are also no raccoons here.
yeah. I just get letters from the HOA. That's the
And
only thing that if I get a letter from the HOA, I got to handle
I'd
that.
rather deal with them than my
Yeah.
leasing
Yeah.
office because they're supposed to do a lot of the work there, and they just don't.
I have not gotten a letter from the HOA in a long time, by the way. I just want to point that out. But occasionally they're like, "Hey, your bark isn't the right color." It's like, "Oh,
Oh.
okay. We'll put a lien on your house if you don't fix it." It's like, "All right."
Oh.
So anyway, love you, HOA. Okay, back
Listening.
to our star of today's episode, and that is Jason. Jason, how would you currently evaluate the state of cinema, and how important is theater going to you? And how much of a routine is it for you? Because that's where we met for the first time. So I would think it's somewhat important to you to be able to go to the movie and catch a flick.
It's very important, and no way can I live up to Tyler's numbers. But last year I did see 83 movies in the movie theater, and shooting for 90 this year. I enjoy the theater. Let me say,
Yeah, yeah.
let me rephrase that. I would like to enjoy the theater experience. Unfortunately, theaters, due to lack of attendance, I think have dropped the amount of money that they put into their facilities as far as cleanliness and other things. The people who work there. So, but needless to say, I love the movie going experience, and I think that unfortunately there's a bad group of films as of right now, and also the whole streaming window is, I think, hurting because, I mean, there's stuff that I saw on Netflix last night. I was like, "Wasn't that just out a few weeks ago?" And so it's they're kind of feeding on each other. I think it takes a movie, an event movie like Minecraft. Unfortunately, I mean, it was an event movie and we got people and I love seeing lots of people in the movie theater for an event movie, like when Barbie and everybody was dressing up for Wicked. And so it's going to take an event movie like that to get people to come to the movie theater. And there just aren't enough event movies to have people coming on a more consistent basis.
That is 100% correct. But there's pros and cons to the event movies, right? Because with the event movies, it brings a lot of people who don't know how to act in the theater too.
Well, I was thinking the same.
Chicken jockey.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I went to go see Minecraft with my daughter, and people were just loud during the movie, and I'm thinking these are probably people that don't go to the movies that often, don't know the etiquette of movie watching. So that's that's the problem. They haven't been taught to, when you walk into a movie theater, you need to be quiet stuff, and then you can laugh out loud, you can, react, but don't sit there and have conversations and don't bring out your phone and all this stuff. So it's the kids today just don't know what it's like to go to the movies.
I was in Sinners the first time seeing it, and someone's phone, their ringtone was "My Home's in Alabama."
Oh.
So I'm like, well, Ryan Coogler picked a weird song for this scene. He's like, "My home's." Anyway, so they answer. They take the full phone call right there in the theater. Right there in the theater, they just have the full phone. They're like, "I'm not going to walk down the
Straight to jail.
steps." And well, I mean,
Straight to jail.
yeah. Well, I saw it a second time. That person was not in there, and it was a much better experience. But Sinners, I believe, is the best movie of the year so far. I hope when you see it, you enjoy it. I hope that you're like, okay, this one feels like it's made for fans of film, because it really stands out above the pack. And I'm hopeful for this summer that we get some real quality films to feast on. I hope Superman is a hit. I'm a big fan of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies,
Same.
especially Superman 1 and Superman 2. Both cuts of Superman 2 have different things about them that I like. But I would love to, for the first time in my life, see a really quality Superman film in theaters, because I feel like I haven't gotten that experience. I didn't like Man of Steel. I don't know where you fell on it, whether or not you loved it or not. I didn't love Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. Um, but I'm hoping Superman this summer, as my most anticipated movie of the year, lives up to the hype. Are there any movies coming out here in the coming months that you're kind of excited about as a fan of going to the theater? Is there anything that's on your radar currently?
I tell you, the movie that I did see a trailer for that got me itching was Tron Ares, because I everything I saw in that trailer was what I was hoping that they were gonna do last time. And so, but I still feel like I'm gonna get let down. I see these trailers and they look good, and then, like, kinda we were talking about with the Star Wars movies, you get in your mind kinda what the story's gonna be like and stuff, and then they play it safe or they do something weird, and then you kinda walk out going, "I could have done that better. That could have been better." That's the problem with movies today, is that's, and I don't know if it's because, I'm grown up as a fan. I took film classes, and I just feel like they could do something better. So, but that's the main one, and of course, obviously, next summer we've got the um, Star Wars, the Grogu and Mandalorian movie. We've got Doomsday, so really pumped about that. All the hype that Thunderbolts is getting, I'm excited about that. I thought the trailers were kind of blah, and so I was not excited about Thunderbolts until I've heard all the great reviews. So.
Last night when I got home right before I went to bed, I got a text from a buddy that wanted us to go ahead and book our Thunderbolts tickets. So I'm like, okay, well, let me look around. These theaters are empty for the Thunderbolts tickets right now. I mean, like,
Wow. Okay. So yesterday, Hunter texted me and said the other day that one of his friends got an early screening to it and said like it was really good, one of the best Marvel movies in a while. So I'm thinking, well, do I need to go ahead and book my ticket? And I was looking, nah, we got time.
it's open. It's
We
pretty
got
open.
time.
So you got your pick of the litter. There's going to be a plenty of showings there, but the current state of Marvel and the current state of Star Wars have some weird parallels right now, in that they're both under the same umbrella, really. And they both have seemed to have lost more fans than gained more fans here lately. I mean, does that bum you out at all, being a giant Star Wars fan, seeing the current state of the product being what it is?
It does, because I remember when Disney bought Star Wars, and and they said, we're gonna have a Star Wars movie a year. That's when they were all gung ho, and before they had been let down by the Last Jedi and Solo, and I thought, that's just a little bit overkill. And I think Star Wars movies were always special because they were events. You waited 2 years, 3 years. I tell my daughters that in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, those are like 3 long years of having to wait for a Star Wars movie to come out. But like, it was so worth it when Return of the Jedi came out. And now everything's like, they want it, what's the next thing, what's coming out next week. And I love the anticipation. They were special. And I think that's why I think and Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be so special because now it's been going to be 6 or 7 years
Yeah.
between theatrical Star Wars movies, and so but then of course they're going to have Starfighter the year after, and so they're going to try to get back on that thing. I mean, they need to make money obviously with that IP, but just make it special.
The anticipation for Last Jedi was legitimate. I mean, like, the amount of theories that were floated out there and rumors and everybody having all these questions that they wanted answered after Force Awakens came out and was such a hit. And it really revitalized Star Wars for so many individuals. And obviously Rogue One had come out in that time frame as well, and it was really received very well. And then Last Jedi sort of, I don't want to say it mocked the questions that everyone had that were like burning questions, but I mean it pretty much did. I mean there was no satisfaction in actually getting the answers in that movie. Now, I like The Last Jedi.
I did too.
I don't have a big problem with it, other than the fact that 2 weeks after it came out, all of a sudden people started turning on it, and then it became this cancerous entry in the franchise for some reason. And I think it was because the internet saw there was an opportunity to strike and to kind of ruin the fun for everybody else. And they took the full advantage of doing that, being the internet. That's what the internet does best.
I think that movie, I think it does make a lot of people angry because of what it did to certain characters.
Mhm.
But I like the idea of turning something over on its side, and I didn't expect Luke Skywalker to be like that, and I didn't expect Snoke to die, and I didn't expect all these things. So I thought that
It subverted expectations
Exactly.
at every turn, though. That was the problem. It
but
was
maybe
at
it's
every turn.
maybe too many, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's so many of the movies today play it safe, and that's why I love movies that do the unexpected. That's why I like Infinity War. That's why I like The Last Jedi, because they they don't give you exactly what you want, and that's, I think, why the Star Wars fans didn't like it. It didn't give them what they wanted, and then they went apologetic and went to Rise of Skywalker.
Which is the worst entry, I think, of any Star Wars movie. I don't know what currently is your least favorite Star Wars movie ever made, but for me, I think it's Rise of Skywalker. I think
Solo.
Solo,
Nope.
completely unnecessary.
Solo was the only Star Wars movie I left going, huh, wow, just feeling totally apathetic about.
Is it because of the recasting first and foremost?
I mean, it was a little bit. I just thought it was a very plain Jane movie that didn't take many chances, and it just kind of hit the beats.
Mhm.
And I would have really loved to see what the original version with Lord and Miller.
Yeah.
But if there's ever a rough cut of that escapes of or assembly cut of what they put together, I think that would be money.
They kept reporting it was too much like Ace Ventura. That's what they kept reporting, that it came
Well, it
across too much as Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura.
I would love to see what that would be like. I mean, I don't, I'm glad they didn't release that, but I would just love to see what that would be like.
Tyler, what you got for us?
So Nick in the chat says the thing I did not like about Last Jedi is that it was so different from Force Awakens and just went a totally different directions than what it seemed like the Force Awakens was taking the franchise. And I think that was my problem with Last Jedi as well, because I really like Finn in Force Awakens, and then it just feels like he's just sidelined.
The rest of eternity.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
It's like he was gonna build up steam as a
Yeah.
new fan favorite, and then John Boyega was just put on the bench and forgotten about.
Yeah, that was the problem. They had no through line of where they wanted these characters to end up, where they wanted them to go, what the plan was. They also had certain fates they couldn't control that occurred with losing the ability to have characters in recurring roles at the right time. And it ended up being an absolute mess. And J.J. Abrams, I think one of his biggest regrets he'll ever have is not sort of sticking through with it all the way through, because I don't think we get that version of Rise of Skywalker if J.J. Abrams does the second movie in the franchise. So it's disappointing for sure of
Yeah.
what could have been when you got everybody back on the bus, but then you literally drove that bus off a cliff. So
Well, and then you hear what George Lucas, he had some concept ideas that he threw out before he sold the company. So you can take these or use them or not, and they were really heady. They were dealing on the cellular level with the mitochondrians.
midichlorians.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you're good. I'm glad Access Hollywood picked you. No,
That's
I'm
right.
just kidding.
I just lost my Ultimate Star Wars fan card.
You don't get to go to the re-release tonight.
Right. But I mean, and then the guy who did Jurassic World, who was supposed to do episode 9, I read some early stuff with his stuff, that was sounded kind of interesting, and me personally as a fan, I would have loved to have seen by the end of episode 9 all our main heroes get force powers, and the Force Awakens was this awakening in all of us, and wouldn't that be so cool to have
So much cooler than what
Force
they did.
I-
Yeah.
to have everybody's got the Force in some capacity, and then where do you go with 10, 11, and 12 after that? I mean, that opens up a whole idea of things.
I would
So,
take it. I
See,
would
that's
take
where
it.
I thought they were going with the whole thing. That's why
Yeah,
I thought
they were.
the title was The Force Awakens.
Yeah, but they were just too scared to make the big move.
Well, I'm nervous about the future of Star Wars still, and I hope they're able to get it right. But it is a tough time to be a Star Wars fan. Not a lot of things to be super excited about, and I'm hoping that once we get Favreau's vision up there on the big screen with this Grogu movie, that the tide starts to turn again. But it's tough being a Star Wars, especially a lifelong Star Wars fan, with all the highs and all the lows, right? I mean, it's been a journey for you, I'm sure.
It has, but a good friend of mine used to say, and I mean, I guess it's true. It's like that. There is, even bad Star Wars is Star Wars. So even though you may have not liked the Acolyte or Skeleton Crew or the Clone Wars cartoon or something like that, there's aspects of it that are even aspects of the Rise of Skywalker that are fun and stuff. So and as a collective, they may not be the best, but there is still magic in some of that storytelling. So you just got to find the magic where it comes.
That is very well said. I'm rooting for Star Wars to get back on track. A lot of people, they're making a career off of rooting against Star Wars at every turn, and we're not there, but we got to acknowledge when the wins and the losses happen within this world. Okay, I got to ask you this. How'd you find the Meltdown, and what has motivated you to make a donation here with this mystery box that we will open up next week on the show?
Well, been a big fan of the next round since they came to this format, and even the round table back in the day and stuff. So that's how I found you guys, um and then as far as the mystery box goes, I think everybody loves a mystery, and so I remember my kids watching these videos on YouTube with the surprise eggs at the time, and you have all the blind bags, and they love getting the blind bags and see what am I going to get. And so obviously I love movies, and so when I first saw you guys open up a movie blind box, I was like, I've seen them at Second and Charles, and I thought, well, I wonder what's in those. So that got my curiosity up, and then it was funny to see what's the next thing that Tim's going to pull out. And I'm sorry you guys went through some bad times there with the boxes from
San Antonio, Florida.
Florida.
Yep.
But yet it's also entertaining, and so I have a very big movie collection myself, and so I trying to go through and have some duplicates and some things that I thought you might like, some things you might not like. So I figured I kind of clean out the coffers a little bit and donate one, and anxious to see your reaction to what's in the box.
Okay. Well, we're very excited about it. We'll be doing that next week, and probably our most anticipated DVD mystery box of all time.
Yeah.
Because this one has been curated by a guy who knows his stuff for sure. And we appreciate you stopping by here in the Culver studio. I hope it was everything that you wanted it to be, because you've shared a lot of your fandom here with us and answered all of our questions. And I wish you were able to go to an after party after your screening tonight, like the one you went to in 2005, because you got a stormtrooper feeding you like a brisket or something like that.
Had a stormtrooper feeding me, and I got a bag of swag and stuff, but I will be going tonight to see Revenge of the Sith and get my popcorn bucket and just reliving those good old days from 2005.
I want to say again, the poster that they did for the re-release here, it looks phenomenal.
All the re-release posters have been really great. If you remember back around COVID time, they re-released Empire, they released Jedi for its 40th, and they released Phantom Menace last year for its 25th. So I think they're all maybe done by the same artist. I'm not sure, but they're very cool and very similar themed. And so now we got hopefully we'll get a 50th Star Wars coming up, and then maybe a Attack of the Clones, whatever anniversary would be, so we can get at least 6 of the original movies with that cool poster art.
We've got the link to your Access Hollywood video
Nice.
there in the chat right now with I think Hunter Bussey is wanting to be your new best friend. He talked about how you and him talking Star Wars nonstop could paint the town red and all that. So stay away from Hunter. That's my first piece of advice to you. Let's see here. We have Charles saying, I'm mad they didn't get this original cast together on screen for a final time. They dropped the ball with that. I mean, just as simply put as possible. The fact that you don't have those 3 iconic characters and Chewbacca thrown in there too. I mean, you need all 4 of them, really. R2, C3PO, you could have got the whole gang back together,
I'm
and they
sorry, are
decided
you
to sort of chop
implying
this
that
up.
Chewbacca is not an iconic character?
I am not implying that. I am implying that I think what everybody really wanted were to see
The
Mark
3.
Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher all together.
All right, just checking.
No, 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 yeah. I'm no Chewbacca hate here. I know that some people collect his hair even in studio with us right now, so I wouldn't go that route. We have Smuff saying they were too busy destroying the characters from the original trilogy by making them turn on basically everything they were established to be. I mean, there's just it's tough sledding right now with Star Wars and what the fans want, what the fans got, what the fans hope to get in the future. And I feel like a lot of fans right now are just sort of numb to the current state of Star Wars, which is why something like this 20th anniversary re release is something that we can get on here and fully celebrate and hopefully people can enjoy. And it's been really nice, Jason, to see Hayden Christensen getting his due and getting some love here and being cheered everywhere he goes because at the time, it could not have been easy to have that role on his shoulders and go through that amount of hate that most of the cast did of the prequels.
No, I agree. Seeing him come back to the Obi-Wan series and then the Ahsoka series, and now um, talking about the Episode 3 20th anniversary. He was just in Japan at the Celebration convention, and yeah, and same thing with Jake Lloyd. He got a lot of hate as a little kid, and he went through a lot of struggles with his life. I know that Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar, had a lot of fan negative reaction that he had to deal with it. Kelly Marie Tran from the Last Jedi, also lots of hate and stuff like that. So just like fans, just be nice, but it's nice to see. The years have passed, and now they can be celebrated, and they're a little bit more loved, the movies are now, and maybe in 15 years or so we'll look back at Rise of Skywalker and maybe think that
No, no, that's not happening.
that's right.
Oh, I
That's
appreciate
right.
your last visit here, Jason. It's been a pleasure. You've been so great. But no, I do hope we can get you back here sometime soon, especially when something major Star Wars pops up again, because it is such a big part of film history that we're kind of numb to right now based on the creative decisions that have been made. And I like reliving sort of the glory days of Star Wars for sure and being optimistic about the things to come. If you'd like to be optimistic about building up your bankroll, you can do so at our title sponsor. That is MyBookie at mybookie.ag. You can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. That is mybookie.ag. Use that promo code next round, all one word there, next round, for your first time deposit bonus there as a new player at mybookie.ag. EG, big plans for the weekend ahead.
Yep.
As you have sort of a reunion with one of your very, very good friends.
Yes.
Maybe, you said old college roommate?
Yeah, my college roommate. My
College
best friend from
roommate,
college.
best friend from
Chrissy.
college. This will
Very
be a good time.
excited.
Have a wonderful weekend
I will.
and go live the nostalgia of now growing up and being an adult in this world, which is no fun. And Tyler, I hope that you are able to fight off all the raccoons as you're making your way back to the movieplex. You'll be having out of the theater reactions to a number of things this upcoming weekend.
Yes, I will. I've already got reactions up for Legend of Ochi if you want to see a family movie this weekend, and Until Dawn if you're a horror movie fan or if you're a fan of the games. And tonight I'm planning on having an Account 2 review up. And later this weekend, Cheech and Chong's last movie and possibly the new David Cronenberg movie if I can find a showtime for it.
Well, there we have it. A full slate there. I am going to see Shrek the Musical tonight in Alabaster, supporting our good friend Brian Pavlik, his family. You need to go out, book your ticket for Shrek the Musical either tonight or tomorrow night is when you can catch those showings. We went and saw Cinderella a year ago, and it's an amazing production. What they're able to do. They have an orchestra pit with an orchestra playing throughout. It's incredible what they're able to do there on the campus of Thompson High School. So I'm looking forward to that. We will all go our separate ways now. Jason, thank you again so much for making time for us. We look forward to opening up your mystery box next week. I hope there's no raccoons in there for Tyler's sake, and we will we'll call it a weekend here. Once again, thank you for your loyal support here of The Meltdown. We appreciate your subscription and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we go live. And we will see you again next week, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on the channel.